Welcome to the Autism Action Update. I'm your host, Assemblyman Angelo of Santabarbara. I'm the chair of the New York State Assembly's Subcommittee on Autism Spectrum Disorders. On this podcast, we have talked about a number of things. Today, we're going to be talking about the New York ABLE program. It's an amazing plan that helps people with disabilities save for disability-related expenses, and we're going to be talking about that with the director of the savings program, Anne Del Plato. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you for being here. We talked about the New York ABLE program quite a bit actually here in my district because we had an event not too long ago, last year. And actually we had it on May 29th, which was just past this year, National 529's Savings Day, Savings Plan Day. So that's a day when we talk about things like this. And the New York ABLE program, actually, so that's an acronym. So what I guess why don't we talk about the full name, which is
New York's Achieving a Better Life Experience.
And this program is intended for people with disabilities specifically, and it's so that people can actually save, earn a paycheck, save some money, and not have it counted against them towards other things that they are entitled to. So you're the director, you're here from the Comptroller's office, we appreciate that, and the Comptroller's been just wonderful with having events in the district. We had an event here where we talked about the ABLE program, and it was still fairly new, and this is not something new. This is actually something that's been around for a little while now.
It's been around for a little over a year and a half, and the program has certainly provided some great opportunities for people with disabilities to have more financial independence, and that's really the heart of the ABLE program, is it allows people to save money in their own names if they have disabilities and to not have those funds count against them when they receive benefit programs like SSI and SSDI, Medicaid, HUD, that are their lifeblood. You know, they help them live, and they really count on those kind of benefits. Prior to programs like ABLE and prior to this specific ABLE program, they can only have $2,000 in their own name. But ABLE is not counted as a resource for those programs. So they can put money away for their future, whether they're working or whether they're not.
And I've heard, this has been a topic of conversation. People generally were afraid to go out and say, all right, I'm going to take a job and I'm going to earn some money because they were afraid of losing some important benefits that are quality of life. That's been a fear, right?
That has been a fear, and it's something that we are so passionate about getting the word out about, and we appreciate your work in helping us do that, because this is a real game changer, not just for people with disabilities, but for their families who want to put money aside for them. And, I mentioned future security, but ABLE is set up so that people can put money aside for their futures, but they can put money aside that they can take out for disability expenses as they occur. So there's both components of it, for expenses that occur now and for those that they want to save for in the future.
And what's nice, the Comptroller's office and your involvement in this, people have questions, they can always call, they can always ask, and I'm sure people have had a lot of questions about the program itself. One of them, of course, being, hey, how do I sign up for this? How do I get involved with this? Do I even qualify for it? Because I have a son who's 17. He's lives with autism, but there may be a number of other disabilities where people may be asking the question, do I qualify for this? Or can my son or my daughter or my loved one go and take a job? And how would that work? So let's just put some of that information out there. How would people begin the process?
Well, as far as your first question about who's eligible, that's a question that we get pretty frequently. So eligibility for the New York ABLE program is that a person must be a resident of New York State and have a disability that was present before age 26. If they qualify for SSI or Social Security disability because of that disability, then they automatically qualify, or if they're legally blind. But if not, then if they have a statement from a physician basically documenting a medically determinable physical or mental impairment that's marked in severe and has lasted at least a year or more permanent than that, if they get that statement from a physician and keep it themselves, then they can be eligible as well. And we also have a list on our website of compassionate allowance conditions that Social Security puts together. But I think most of our participants so far either have SSI or SSDI, or they get that written diagnosis from a physician. So that's the basic eligibility criteria.
And, to process this, to get in the program, it doesn't take that long.
No, it's actually, the feedback that we receive is that it is pretty easy, and that's what we've intended to do. We want the process to be easy to apply for ABLE, and once people contribute funds, to make it easy to be able to access those funds as they need them. And to contribute funds as they choose to as well. So to apply, it's all centered through mynewyorkable.com. So it's nyable.org.com.
And of course, the comptroller's website as well
And they can go through the comptroller's website as well. But nyable.org is our primary website, and there is the application information, the contribution, the withdrawal, and the application process involves having personal information like your name, social security, which you would expect, the phone number, permanent address, and then people enter their qualifying disability and some information about how they choose to invest their funds. We have a checking account option, we have a debit card option, so people can use that short-term option, or they can choose some of those longer-term options, and then basically they contribute as little as $25 to get started.
And this is, and when you open up a bank account, same information you would need to open up a regular bank account anyways.
For this one, because it's disability oriented, the only addition would be that qualifying disability and the certification that is that information is true and accurate. But then the selection, of course, of those options, depending on people's own financial goals.
So we had, as I said, we had that great event last year, and I had some questions come in that I think are worth talking about on the show. You say it's a game changer, and I think it is because we have Puzzles Bakery right down the road here with Sarah Mae Pratt that runs, and I think the comptroller did tour the bakery, and as you know, the staff is she employs, that's the model, people with disabilities. And it's great to see that people are taking on jobs, being a part of an employment opportunity. Before the ABLE program, those funds were not able to be saved or put aside. That wouldn't count against other services, as you said. But now someone takes a job there, they're able to open up this account, put their own funds into a savings account, and have a debit card or a credit card and be able to spend those.
Yes, that's it. Sure. And I'm glad you brought up employment, because ABLE is set up so that the maximum contribution is $15,000 a year. But when people work, there's some built-in incentives.
Yeah.
So if people work, they can put in even extra over that. They can put it this year up to $27,140. So it's an extra $12,000 plus if they work that they can set aside. And they can also take advantage of a saver's credit. So when they file their income tax form at the end of the year, if they put money into an ABLE account from their earnings, they can take up to a $2,000 tax credit. So there's a couple incentives built into ABLE to allow them to save more and to get tax credits as well. So again, the program is set up to help those who don't have jobs as well, but for those who do, there's extra incentives that are built in.
And we sort of talked around the employment topic, but what about other sources of income? Let's say and grandparents ask this. I want to give my grandchild a birthday present. Would that be able to be put into this account?
It would. ABLE accounts are owned by the person with the disability, so it is in their name. They're the account owner and the beneficiary, but anybody can contribute. We even have something called UGift, so we've set that up as part of the structure of the program. And UGift allows the person who has the account to share a code with loved ones, with friends, and anybody can make a contribution. They use that code, and it could be like a gift certificate that they provide, at Christmas time or birthdays, or really any time, and that money would go directly into the account. In fact, we have payroll deduction, and the person with a disability who owns the account can use that. So a part of their paycheck could go into ABLE, but their loved ones and family members could do that too, so they can have payroll deduction set up. We've got a form on our website so that those funds can go directly into that person's ABLE account.
And that's really, employment is important. And that's certainly significant too, because, when we talk about people being treated equally, I have a daughter, I have a son, my parents always do birthday gifts. They want to make sure they're treating them both equally. This really opens up another opportunity to be able to do that, which leads me to the next question. My son, how old do you have to be? My son's 17. Mm-hmm. If you have someone that's, a child, how old do you have to be to actually participate in this?
Well, if in your son's case, or anybody who's a minor, the parent typically is opening the account for the child. But once your son is 18, he would be able to take over that account himself. But we know that sometimes there are people whose disability prevents them from handling finances themselves. And if that's the case, even when they're adults, if the parent, or if there's a legal guardian or someone with power of attorney status, then they would be what we call an authorized individual who would interact on that account. So
And that was going to be my next question, if there's a guardianship, because many times there is a guardianship
There is.
situation where, you know, the individual's 18 and you have a situation where they're not able to make those decisions, and
Right.
guardian would make those decisions for them. So that's great that you answered that question as well. So again, for people to learn more about this, they can visit the website. They can ask questions. It doesn't take that long to actually get involved or get into the program and get processed.
That's correct. And we have a toll-free number because we know that people, and many people are calling the toll-free number many times. We're getting thousands of calls on that toll-free number. And the number is 1-855-5NY-ABLE. And we have that hotline available from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
That's great.
on weekdays.
Yeah.
So we want everyone to feel free to call that number to ask any individual questions that they haven't. Call as often as they'd like to, as often as they need to.
Yeah,
So-
and if you have some question of whether or not you qualify, just make the call, and
Sure.
it's worth it to find out
Sure.
the information.
Or if you have, you're applying and you have questions, or you're wondering about benefits and how it works with ABLE, any questions at all.
And now we mentioned disability-related expenses. That's something we should talk about. So now you're able to make withdrawals. You're able to have a checkbook or a debit card. What are the types of expenses that you can use this account for?
Well, what we call them, and this program has been established by IRS Code 529A, and the large description, the wider description is that qualified disability expenses are any expenses that are incurred as a result of living with a disability and are intended to improve the quality of life. On our website, we have the list, and it's a pretty wide list: education, health and wellness, housing, transportation, financial management, employment training and support. There's so many things that fall into that. So we tell people to think about those things that improve the quality of life and are related to living with a disability. But we do have the information about those, the list. Many things fall under those categories. Certainly people should hold on to their documentation, but that is the general guidance.
And it seems like it's pretty flexible, but the main thing is that it gives people opportunity to be able to sort of achieve, work towards their own independence, and I think that's what's important about this.
It is.
You mentioned, so there's a limit, so you can put so much per year, but there's also a maximum.
There
So
is.
once you reach the maximum, that maximum right now, I believe is 100,000.
That's correct.
So
That's correct.
that, and we should also mention, this is not the only state that has a program like
No,
this.
no. The ABLE is set up so that there was federal legislation that enacted ABLE on a broad sense, but that federal legislation also really allowed states to open their own ABLE programs. So New York's is now one of about 42 programs nationwide, and we serve the residents of New York State. But as you mentioned, the maximum on our accounts currently is $100,000. So when we talk about that $27,000 plus max per year, that is something that could be reached in a few years in the future. But we appreciate your sponsorship of legislation that could change that, and you can certainly.
Well,
speak
yeah,
to
I
that.
think we need to talk about it just recently passed Legislative Disabilities Awareness Day. We had a package of bills in the state assembly, and there was a number of bills aimed at improving quality of life for those with disabilities, making sure they're treated fairly and equally in a number of different categories. Among them was a bill, of course, I was proud to be a sponsor of, was a bill that actually increased the maximum amount for the NY ABLE program. Now, the NY ABLE program is a few years old, right?
It's been a little over a year and a half since it debuted here in New York.
So, and I know enrollment has been increasing.
It has been.
And part of it is getting the word out, and that's why I wanted to have you on this
Exactly,
podcast.
yes.
Is if you'd be surprised how many people don't know anything about it. So hopefully, people listening to this will at least inquire and see if they is something that can be helpful to their family or their loved ones. But part of that is trying to get this program in line with some of the other states, and some of the other surrounding states have higher limits.
They did.
So what this bill will do, it's on its way to the Senate now, or I think it's been delivered to the Senate, and hopefully it will pass, is increase that number, but it puts it in line with the 529 College Savings Program. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, currently, the 529 College Savings Program, we reassess that to look at college costs. But certainly when we talk about ABLE and we talk about those long-term needs, in the long term, people could be using their ABLE accounts to save for retirement. So the current maximum on our 529 College Savings Account is $520,000, and what we've done is we've in supporting this legislation or moving it forward, we've asked that the ABLE program be tied to that maximum. So that would bring the program up this year to 520.
And it also makes it a little more flexible so that we don't have to keep changing these limits, that it just sort of adjusts itself as time goes on.
Exactly.
So it's an important bill, and I'm glad to see that it did move to the Assembly this year, and I'm confident it's going to be something that will receive full support going forward, and I'm hoping to see that become a reality for people. The main thing here, I guess, we want to make sure that people know that they can ask questions. Let's put out that number again and the website.
Okay.
And the number, go ahead, you can give that out.
The phone number is 1-855-5NY-ABLE, A-B-L-E, and that's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the website is mynYable.org.
And of course, people can also, if for whatever reason they want to talk to my office, they can call my office or visit my website, nyassembly.gov, or give us a call at the office. We're happy to assist people through this process. It's not a very complicated process. It's more of just determining if you qualify, but it's something certainly worth looking into if you have a family member or loved one that is disabled, or maybe you know of somebody that may benefit from this program. The program at this point, I think, is underutilized. I think we are trying to increase enrollment, and the reason we had that event here at Proctor's is because a lot of people didn't know about it, and a lot of people showed up to learn about it, and I think they ended up signing up at the end of the event.
They did. Yeah.
So it's wonderful, and you were there at the our Legislative Disabilities Awareness Day.
Our team was there.
Your team was here. Your team is here in the studio. I'm happy to see them joining you. And also for my Autism Action Day that I had at the Capitol, it was great to see that you were there signing up people as well. And I think you had some people that enrolled as well. So if you're listening to the podcast, spread the word. Let people know. It's the NY ABLE program is the name of the program, and it really opens up a lot of opportunities, helping people work their way towards independence, which is part of a larger picture of what we're trying to do here in New York State. My autism action bills, certainly this is one of them that I've incorporated that works with the autism ID card, the employment opportunities, a number of other initiatives. I think this goes right in line, and it's very important that we take these steps. And I think years ago, when things like this didn't exist, there was very limited opportunity.
Yes.
So I think game changer is the right word that you mentioned earlier. This really does change things, and I hope this bill that passed the Assembly will increase that limit and help people take advantage of this program even further. So I want to thank you for being on the podcast, and I certainly want to thank the Comptroller and the Comptroller's office and all of his wonderful staff that's always been so willing to help my constituents with programs like this and make them available as much as possible. So I want to thank you for being here. We look forward to having our next event.
That's great.
So I know 529 days already passed, but we could probably set up something at some point.
There will be more 529 days, and we're happy to
Yeah.
come on any day.
So maybe later this year, or whenever the case may be, we'll try and set up something else where people can maybe sign up online. That's the other question I think we should ask. Can people do this online, or do they have to show up in person?
No, they can do it online. Most people do. They do apply online, and they can also draw down a form if that's what they prefer to do. But about 90% of our participants sign up online. And
that makes it even more convenient. And I know a lot of this information is on the website. While you're doing it, you can actually download or read a lot of the information. So thank you to you, and thank you to. And if I could thank you, I thank you for supporting the legislation. But you mentioned getting the word out and the work that you do on behalf of the disability community and those who have autism is just so notable, and we appreciate everything that you do to support our program and to support the effort in general. Thank you. Great to have you on the podcast. Join us again here on the Autism Action Update. We're going to be talking about more programs like this and more issues related to those affected by disabilities and a number of other programs that may be helpful to you or your loved ones. Signing off for now. We'll see you on the next podcast.